Alright guys, so for these Culurgione pierogies that I made, so the first thing you want to do is boil potatoes. So typically you want to use either some kind of mashing potato, so a Idaho potato, russet potato, whatever kind of potato that you like. The other thing you want to do too is pick a protein. So you don't have to use protein. I like to do it because that's how I merge my flavor profiles. So I do Mediterranean style cuisines with smoked foods. So that's how I got into the barbecue world. For today's purposes, I use smoked chicken, which you'll see in one of my other videos here coming up. But what we want to do is pick your flavor profile as far as your palate. So for me today, for the chicken, I used my pork and prey rub. So just sprinkled it on kind of heavy. Again, you'll see it in the video, and then smoked it for about 45 minutes to an hour until you hit that nice internal temperature that you're looking for. I use chicken thighs as well, so you can use breast, thighs, whatever you want. Just make sure that since you're smoking, you want to probably cover it with some kind of fat, or at least give it some sprays so you don't dry out your breast unless you have skin on breast. But again, making some mashed potatoes, do up your chicken, and then what you're going to do is you're going to shred your chicken or your turkey, whatever protein you want to do. You're going to mix it into your mashed potato mix. I also like to use garlic infused olive oil instead of butter or any kind of creams or anything like that, because you're not making a mashed potato. You're just going to mash your potatoes and then mix in your filling. So I made my chicken, shredded it, mashed my potatoes, mixed it all in, and then I added two things. I added pork and prey to give it some extra flavor, and I added some of my Cajun special to give it a little extra heat. And then what I do from there is, again, I mix it up, add some salt as needed, so you want to taste everything. So the kitchen part of me, for those that you don't know, so I am a chef, so you always want to taste as you go. So as I added chicken, as I added my olive oil, garlic olive oil mix, I'm always tasting to see and make sure that the flavor is good. The nice thing about this filling too is you can put it in the fridge, you can freeze it, and then pull it out at another time whenever you're ready to use it. But it doesn't have to be, you don't want to use it hot anyway when you do the pierogi dough, because it'll kind of seep into your dough and it'll make your dough a little bit too soft when you're trying to work with it. So having it out of the refrigerator, let it come up to room temp, should be good to go. And then if you freeze it, just thaw it either in the sink or in the refrigerator. Just till it's not frozen anymore, and then make sure there's not too much liquid content. And if there is, just pour it out and then let it sit at room temperature for a little bit with the bag partially open, just to kind of dry it out just a little bit. So now that we have our mix, we'll go into our pierogi dough. So again, I made this dough ahead of time. For the competition, what I wanted to do is, since the category that I did this in was turkey, so I did everything turkey as much as possible. So again, this is typically flour, water, maybe a pinch of salt, and that's how you get your pierogi dough. But for this, what I did is, when I did the competition, I took my smoked turkey and I used all the juices of that, and I actually mix the juices in instead of water, and then I have a pierogi dough that has the flavor, and if you could smell it, you could smell the turkey and all the fixing is a little bit of smoky flavor to it. So that's how I made my pierogi dough. So you make your dough, you need to let it rest a little bit as well, and then once it's rested, you're good to go. You can roll it out, so roll it out and do a flat piece here. You can use a cutter, whatever you want. Like I have little cookie cutters here, so I use the cookie cutter, roll it out so you're about 1/4 of an inch thick or so. You don't want to go too thin, because it potentially could tear your dough from your filling, since you have chicken pieces in there, at least in my case here. But you're just going to stamp it out, come up with a little disc. So as you can see, it's not super thick, like I said, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less. And then what you want to do is you take your filling and you take about, let's say about 3/4 of a tablespoonful. So this is my spoon. It's a different shaped tablespoon, but as you can see about how much product is on there. And then what you want to do is you want to fold it like a taco. So if stuff comes out, that's actually what you want. So for pierogies, the way that they cook them, there's two different ways. You can boil them, and then you can eat them just like that. You can boil them, and then you can pan fry them, or you can just straight pan fry them. So the method I choose to use is pan frying, which is kind of like if you've had pot stickers before, it's similar to that. But again, you make your taco shell, and then you just pick one end. So to make the Culurgione shape, you're gonna push in, so you have like a little triangle, and then you're gonna bring in both of your ends like this, pinch it, shove it into the product, and then just pinch from one side to another, push in, one side to another, push in, and you're just gonna follow it all the way down. What's gonna happen is you're gonna get this shape that's gonna round out into a small, just a small indentation. And you can see all of this stuff that's coming out, and that's fine. I have my bowl here. You can scrape some of that off. So again, you're just gonna finish this off, and then you're gonna have what's like, it looks like a little tail here. And what's happening is you're pushing out all the air and the excess product filling that you have in there. So if you get, like sometimes I get a little piece of meat in here, we'll just pull the meat out or break it off and then cover the last little skin. Make sure it's all sealed up, and then you get this little shape. So Culurgione is supposed to be like a shape of a wheat pasta. So that's what you're gonna come up with. So it looks like this, right? So again, you can boil these. Once they float for after about 2 to 3 minutes or so, they'll start to float slightly. They're usually done. They cook really quick. Really, for these things, you're just cooking the dough, which happens pretty quickly in the boiling water, and then just warming through the filling. So the pan fry is a little bit different. You want to keep it at about a medium-high heat. I like to use, again, a garlic olive oil, and I'll actually add in some butter to that, and then move it around in the pan, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But that's basically the shape we're looking for.